Kia ora Year 12, this is Ms Mac again. It's a bit different. So we might get interrupted because it's just coming into spell 2, but I'll pause the video as necessary. So now with this beautiful, maybe not so beautiful drawing in front of you, I'm going to go through changes. I was going to make it the demand for labour. Oh well, supply of labour. Look at changes to supply of labour and how you show that, and then thinking about how it can affect things like voluntary employment, or even involuntary unemployment. All right, so I guess an important thing to consider, I'm showing you here the market for dentists and supermarket workers. Interrupted there. Right, I'm trying to remember where I was. So I'm looking at two markets here. Yeah, and sorry, I would like to do the whole drawing and talk thing, but I'm just not very good at that. So I've drawn and then I'll talk through it. I have two markets here, dentists and supermarket workers. I chose these just to sort of show, say, the difference between an increase or decrease in the supply of labour, but also to look at, like, some markets don't have a minimum wage, others do, and that can affect the outcomes when, for example, you have a change in supply or later demand for labour. So with this video, let's just aim to show a increase or decrease in the supply of labour. So number one, you can know which way to shift the curve, was it left or right, and you can accurately label that, so that would be cool. And then you're looking at things like showing the changes to the level of employment or unemployment and the changes to the wage rate. All right, but remember, if you have a minimum wage, there is no change to the wage rate because that's like the legal minimum. Okay, the wage could increase, but in those types of markets, the wage won't rise above the minimum wage. If it was, then you wouldn't need it. All right, so let's start with dentists. Okay, so here's a beautiful diagram. Yeah, I'm not that neat. I get better. Maybe some days I'm better than others, so apologies. So this is the market for dentists, as opposed to just the general labour market. I want to focus on a particular occupation. And let's say that there's a decrease in the supply of dentists. Why I'm talking about this, I went to the dentist last week and had to pay like $1,300. Yeah, it was so expensive. And I got to thinking, you know what, if they could maybe not be so tough on like who could be a dentist, you know, I'm not saying that I just want anyone to be a dentist, but maybe if you didn't have to study for like God knows how many years and pay like 100 grand in like course fees, maybe we would actually have more dentists and then we wouldn't have to pay so much. But here's the thing. There are really strict conditions to be a dentist, and probably that's for good reason. Let's imagine that they decided to make it even harsher. So you have to get like basically like a PhD in like dental medicine, right? So, and then, you know, you might probably got your professional study, that type of thing, a couple of years where you're under supervision. So let's say that they maybe stretched it out that you've got to have more like professional supervision. You've got to like, maybe it's harder to even get into the dentistry course at uni. It's already like really hard, but let's say it's even harder. So they're basically making it harder to become a dentist. What does that do? That decreases the supply of labour, because think about it, you can suddenly cut a huge amount of people who can't be a dentist anymore. Like, you know, if you have to get like, say, like to get into the dentistry course, like actually you have to pass the first year of med school, like health sciences. So maybe you have to get like straight A's, A pluses in your first year at uni to get into dentistry, right? That's like probably only a small proportion of students doing health sciences. So suddenly there's a decrease in numbers going into dentistry because they haven't met the qualification requirements. You know, they haven't met the entry requirements. So we have a decrease in the supply of labour. All right, you shift it to your, I have to think this through, to my left. All right, so shift to the left, shift inwards. The idea that there's less. So if you think it's getting closer to zero. All right, it should be showing that there's less available to work. All right, there's less available dentists. So we shift it left, make sure you call it something like SL, yeah, and then I just put like a 1, but it could be like a dash, or it could be 2, or I suppose even like A or something like that. You have to indicate this is like your first curve and now this is your second. Then always good to show an arrow to show the direction of the shift. It's inwards to the left, okay? And then let's have a look at what happens to the market. So if there's no minimum wage, market forces can like occur, all right? This is like equilibrium to start with, all right, W and Q. No, I just start with a nominal wage here. I decided to make it easy for you and just went W, not W over P. So it's just nominal wages. So what I'm showing is that here's your equilibrium beforehand, okay, and then the supply of labour decreases, all right, and so what happens is that, think it through, the wage rate will increase in the market because otherwise you'd have a shortage of dentists and like people like me would bid up the price of dentists, you know, like, so we'd bid up the wage because we really want a dentist. So the wage would increase, and as that happens, the quantity supply of dentists would increase and the quantity demanded would fall. I just need to take a call. Sorry, phone call taken. So basically what would happen is the wages pushed up in the market, the idea of market forces bidding up by the workers, so the dental firms, I guess, if you like, when I say consumers, yeah, and then some of these people who kind of like, yeah, you're not paying me enough here, will suddenly go, yeah, I'll work for that. All right, so the wage market, then the price in the market will go up, and it can freely do so because there's no minimum wage here. All right, and you know, like, maybe it might happen over a period of time, but definitely wages will go up. Take a pause. Why do they sometimes have like strict requirements on who can be a dentist and other occupations? Because they want to push up wages. Think about it. If you can make it harder to become, say, a dentist or an accountant or something, then you can charge more because there's less of you. Cunning. Anyway, so let's have a look. The actual amount employed as dentists, though, would decrease because, like, thinking about from the firm's perspective, like dental surgeries, it costs more to hire dentists now. So they will decrease their quantity demanded as that wage increases until there's a higher wage, but there's less employed. And so if we look at this in terms of like analysing the market, employment, unemployment, employment in the dentist market would decrease from E to E dash. Right, so 0 to Q and then 0 to Q1. Labeling is incredibly important here, people. So we can see that employment in the dentist labour market would decrease from E to E dash. All right. However, the amount of people who are unemployed voluntarily, so there's no minimum wage here. These people, if they're unemployed, they choose to be. All right, because the wage isn't high enough for them to supply their labour. So what you see happening is equilibrium, like to start with, Q minus QF, which is like the full amount of dentists that can possibly be employed, all right, that will decrease, okay, from Q here, all right, and then I kind of like, I'm thinking now there's a bit of a mistake here. I want to get like my ruler. I can't really show it, but actually the QF would probably decrease to here because remember the supply of labour is decreased. So actually I'm looking at this now and I don't have, oh, actually, maybe I can. Let's see. I can. Let's put it in red. I just realized that as I, yep, okay, got it. I'm going to try and talk as I drew this model that it's a little bit incorrect. Yeah, this is actually QF now. I'm using the mouse, so this is not going to be great. Let's, yeah. Okay, and then actually we're going to need an eraser. The new level of voluntary unemployment, whoops, no, that's not moving, is here. I don't know how to get rid of that, so I can't. But let's just get the black. This is your new level of voluntary unemployment now. It's kind of gone from Q minus QF to Q1 minus QF. In actual terms, that might be about the same amount who are voluntarily unemployed. But the idea is that when the wage rate increases, technically more people might be prepared to work at that higher wage. But the thing is, with the new requirements now to become a dentist, there's actually less people able to work in the first place. So a little bit tricky. So just to run through that, if you have a decrease in the supply of labour, right, because of say tougher entry requirements, there'll be a shift inwards to the left. You need to label it SR1 or something like that to indicate it's a new curve. You need an arrow to show, say, the direction of the shift. And then the wage rate would increase, all right, assuming no minimum wage. And the quantity employed will decrease from Q to Q1. And then we can see that employment would decrease from E to E1. And then voluntary unemployment, yeah, it's a little bit, you need to get like a ruler, you need to let some numbers, right? It's Q to QF to start with. They choose not to work at that wage, whereas now it'll be Q1 to QF, it should be like in red, okay? So it's maybe slightly less. I don't know, you'd have to get a ruler out and measure it, right? So hope you found that helpful. I'm actually going to pause, upload this, and then I'm going to go over supermarket workers separately. Shall I do that? I think I will.